remember when I first started the company, it was 2020 during COVID, and I was like, I was really scared, going on my own and never doing it before, buying my first truck and starting to, buy equipment and just really growing. And I remember saying to my wife, I was like, I don't have like a 401k, I don't have health insurance, I don't have all these things that the competition had. My wife said to me, she said, well, you have you, and that's what people are really going to invest in. And she was 100% right, because I believed in doing the right thing. I believed in, I want to help people, I want to serve people, I want to give them my experience. And I remember starting out in my den in my house, and we would have team meetings there weekly, because I know the things that the bigger companies were doing. I wanted them in my company. I just didn't have the resources or the financial means, but little by little the doors started opening. And I remember, like I said, meeting in my living room, my wife getting the kids ready for school. It was wild.
Welcome to Grow Think Tank. This is the one and only place where you will get insight from the founders and the CEOs of the fastest growing privately held companies. I am the host. My name is Gene Hammett. I help leaders and their teams navigate the defining moments of their growth. Are you ready to grow?
Today, we're going to talk about the journey of scaling. When you go through the whole entrepreneurship journey, you're going to go through a lot of ups and downs. But one thing I know for sure is you've got to be able to transform your mindset, transform the way you lead, because it changes as you add more people to the mix. And if you plan on growing a business with people, you want to plan in advance that there's a journey of scaling and a journey of transforming your own leadership. Today, we have a special guest with us, Ray Reyes from Coastal Growth Services, and he has scaled up his home services businesses. It's kind of one of those that's, plumbing, electrical, HVAC, waterproofing, and maybe even a few other services. And in 4 years, he went from 3 employees to 65. He ended up going from 0 in revenue to 15 million in revenue, and then eventually exiting. And we didn't get into the details of the exit number, but let's just say it was a very healthy, profitable exit for all of those involved in this company that were really, monumental in growing it. What I was talking about with Ray that I think you are interested in is the journey of scaling, and what does it look like? What can you expect as you go through this? And one of the questions in there I loved asking him, he looked at the work he did is a craftsman, meaning he was a plumber and he enjoyed actually doing the work and taking the pictures and putting it up on Instagram. And it was very prideful. But then I asked him, what was a better part of his journey, that being the craftsman or being the leader, building the people around him? And he very clearly and distinctly said it was building the people. And we unpack what that means inside here. So hopefully you'll find it as interesting as me in the journey of scaling with Ray Reyes. My name is Gene Hammett. I'm a CEO coach. I love working with companies who are in growth mode. And that means they have a certain amount of chaos and complexity that we help them understand, we help them grow through. And we do that through coaching, we do that through leadership development, and sometimes there's a little bit of consulting in there as well. But whatever it is, if you're curious about the work we do, there's a couple of different ways you can engage with it. You can keep listening to the podcast, and that's fantastic, but it's pretty passive. If you want to join us for a future training, go to coreelevation.com and see some of the events we have coming up that you might find interesting. But then on top of that, if you really are wanting a level of service that you can't get anywhere else, one-on-one personalized service for free, all you have to do is send me an email, gene@genehammett.com. We'll have a quick conversation. I'll use some of my tools. We'll figure out where you are. We'll help you identify what's getting in your way, and I will send you on your way. You don't have to sign up for anything. You don't have to be a client. And I do that because I know this business is about relationships and about value. If you're curious about the work we do, send me an email, gene@genehammett.com. Comes right to me. Just say you heard it on the podcast. That's our trigger to give it to you for free. Otherwise, it would cost you money to have that experience with me. But I give it to you. And I only do about 1 or 2 of these a week. So go ahead and sign up, and then we can schedule it out over the next few weeks, because we don't do it, this week and whatnot. If you're curious about that work, having a real conversation with me, unlocking your next level of leadership, just send me that email, gene@genehammett.com. Now here's the interview with Ray. Ray, how are you?
I'm good, Gene. I really appreciate you having me. I'm excited to talk to you and get connected with your audience.
Well, I'm excited to be here too, because I'm impressed with your journey. You were a good employee that turned into an entrepreneur that turned into your first exit, because I know there's another one on the horizon. But that's the reason I want to have you on the show to talk about your journey of scaling, your whole mindset shifts. Before we dive into that, let's go. Where are you now? So I know you've sold the business. You can tell us a little bit about that, but you're in Coastal Growth Services. So what is the business now?
Yeah, so Coastal Growth is a company that advises other companies on how to scale, pretty much do everything I did. My journey is a little fast tracked because I started the company in 2020. Me and I think we had 3 employees in the first year, and we scaled it to 65 employees in 4 years. And we went from zero to $15 million in revenue, and we're able to have a great exit. And now I'm able to really serve at a higher level. I still have equity in the company. It was NJ Pipe Doctor. It was a wonderful experience. And, I never was a business owner. I never owned a business. I was, like you said, I was a great employee. I worked in a plumbing HVAC electrical world for the previous 15 years. So I worked from a helper to a technician to a salesman to a manager. So I kind of understood a lot of the business, but I didn't really understand what it was like to run a business day to day and understand financials and operations and sales and leadership and marketing and like just all the things that it took to scale the company. And I'm just grateful for the whole entire experience.
I can see it in the smile on your face. And I know that you got one of those big checks for exiting and there's still an earnout. All those are just incredible, parts of the journey. You learned a lot, I'm sure, through the due diligence. But looking back, you were able to scale a company, right? So you said a handful of employees to 65, from 0 to 15 million in 4 years. Like, I mean, this is rare, right? I know that you had mentors and coaches along the way that pushed you and challenged you and helped, got you going in the right direction, let go of some of the other stuff. But when you look back at just the scaling part of your business, what do you feel like this is the biggest things that you could share back to others that are kind of going through the same thing or maybe want to grow faster?
Yeah, I mean, I remember when I first started the company, it was 2020 during COVID, and I was like, I was really scared, going on my own and never doing it before, buying my first truck and starting to, buy equipment and just really growing. And I remember saying to my wife, I was like, I don't have like a 401k, I don't have health insurance, I don't have all these things that the competition had. My wife said to me, she said, well, you have you. And that's what people are really going to invest in. And she was 100% right because I believed in doing the right thing. I believed in, I want to help people. I want to serve people. I want to give them my experience. And, I remember starting out in my den, in my house, and we would have team meetings there weekly because I know the things that the bigger companies were doing. I wanted them in my company. I just didn't have the resources or the financial means, but little by little, the doors started opening. And I remember, like I said, meeting in my living room, my wife getting the kids ready for school. It was wild. And then like we started growing the office and like I think my living room, my kitchen table, and then in my basement I had like a manager here, an operations manager. Like we just ran it out of the house. And I had a garage and a little shed and before we knew it, but we had a couple trucks and a couple guys, and I was like, all right, we can't meet in my house. There's too many of us. My neighbors are complaining. We're gonna start meeting at Dunkin' Donuts every week. And there was like a Dunkin' Donuts with a conference room, and I would rent it. And I just started speaking the story into the team about where we're going and what's gonna happen and how big we were. And literally everything I said I did, as far as a leader, like if the meetings were at 7 o'clock, I was right there at 7 o'clock, coffees, donuts, ready to go. If we had a big job and things went south, I was right there jumping in, and I remember my first year, I had a really big account and I learned from somebody, one of anything is not good. So I said to myself, I don't want to like give someone my whole business. I want to be able to take on residential, commercial, like any opportunity. So I was like, I have to scale. And, being in the truck every day was really hard. And I had 3 little kids. My wife was out of we were we were out of our minds growing the company. But I had a faith and that it would get better, and I knew it was hard. And I would tell my wife, I'm like, I know it's hard now, but it's gonna get better. And it was kind of hard to see it when you're like working all the time and I'm like a zombie because I'm just working till 2 in the morning, invoicing and making sure all the bills are getting paid. I remember the first year we did 1.6 million, and I remember I hired like another office person to help me with AR because I had 700,000 on the street. Not that they weren't going to pay me, I just didn't have the time to call them and follow up with them because I was too busy worried about the incoming business. And it was a scary position, but it all worked out, and I just kept building the next year. And I remember, year two, we did about 3.4. So then the year after that, we did about 7. So the company doubled every year, and year after year, I would go to my mentors or my fiduciaries, my financial people, and I would tell them my goals, and they'd be like, Ray, they're pretty tough, maybe just like take your foot off the pedal a little bit. And I said to myself, no, I want to put the time in now while I'm young and I have the energy and I can build something really special. And along the way, each identity I had to shift between like 1 million, 3 million, 3 million and 5 to 7, 7 to 10, 12 to 15. Like I'm so grateful for it, even though tough times, because I had to grow, and I was really uncomfortable throughout the whole time because I knew I had to evolve. I knew I had to be a better leader, a better owner, and honestly, a better human, it affected my whole life. I had to be a better father, a better husband, and I had to communicate at like really high level to everybody. And especially as I was scaling, I knew I couldn't be everywhere at once. So I had to develop people and managers and really shift my style of teaching because I love to teach and I love to explain to the guys, hey, this is the process. This is proven. I've been doing it 15 years. Like let's run the play, So that's a little bit.
That's a lot inside there, Ray, but you said identity shifts, and I can't let that go without you really unpacking what that is. I know within my work, I build models, and so I can explain it to people pretty easily. You may not have a model, maybe you do have a model that you leaned on, but how do you help us understand the identity shifts that you had to make as you went from just that idea to 1.6 million to the next level to the next level, and then eventually getting ready to exit?
Yeah, I had to surround myself with like really high level people that went through exits, my CFO who had been through 20 exits, my mentor had been through 2 exits. So with their experience, I ate humble pie. I was like a really good student. I asked a lot of good questions and then I got laser focused and I implemented and I trusted people that have a track record, and I feel like it may cost you a little bit more, but it actually costs you less because there's a lot of pain that comes into making problems because you think you know this or you think you know that or you talk to your friend or your dad or somebody who like I feel like I think this or I think that and I don't really want to work in I want to work in a certainty where this is what I did at this point in my growth evolution and this is what I did to succumb to that and handle that. And it was humbling because sometimes I would try to hold on to this old system or this comfortability that I had in the company and it wasn't working like it did when I was smaller. So I had to continuously evolve and trust, and really like in my marriage, like in my as being a dad, like and I coach my kids, I didn't stop being a father, I didn't stop date night, I didn't stop going to church with my kids. A lot of times the business would try to suck me back and I'd have to like really get grounded and focus and really reprioritize throughout the whole 4 years.
Now, Ray's was talking about his identity shifts. I built a tool. I've got some other things that will help you understand this, but you want to look for the 5 levels of leadership. I recorded this a few weeks ago. It's on the podcast, very short episode. There's a triangle diagram in there, and it will help you understand your current mindset, your current identity, and it goes through the different 5 levels. There's a level you absolutely have to stay away from. We'll call that micromanagement. And it goes all the way through the different stages of leadership till you get to compound leader. Now, you may not have heard that term before, but it is the leader of leaders. It is the person who is no longer inside the business, but they are, able to go on vacation. And when they are servicing the business, they are coaching their people. They're not in the day to day, but that is an incredible place to get to, but you have to understand the other levels and you have to see where you are. And if you look up 5 levels of leadership, you'll find out the details behind that and it will help you. If you want a training on that, go to workshop.coreelevation.com and you can find it right now. A lot of what we focus on here on the podcast is about the leadership shifts that are necessary as a company grows. Getting out of the truck is probably one of the first ones that you had to do. And I know there's smaller ones in between all of these big ones, but you also were a plumber at one point in time, and then you got to be a business owner. That shift is a huge one. But then when you're starting the business, I would imagine you were in a truck as well as your team.
Yeah.
until the point where there was one day where you didn't see yourself as getting in the truck anymore.
Well, there was two things. One, I had two friends that exited, similar size as me, and they said, Ray, if you don't get out of the truck, you can't scale your company. You can't focus on a company because you're focused on a job. And my identity was like as a craftsman. Like I loved to do boiler work,
Yeah.
really big manifold work, and make sure all the pipes were strapped and tight. And I would admire my work. I'd post pictures on Instagram,
Yeah.
Facebook, and I had to like let go of that and be like, no, my company needs more from me than being the worker bee, and there was really like a point where it like kind of transcended because of the pain I went through. It was maybe like a year or two into the business. It was the summertime. It was kind of like right now, Memorial Day weekend, and my kids were getting baptized down in Ocean Grove, which is like a Christian community down in New Jersey. And I had a call from one of my biggest accounts, and they said, "Hey, the clubhouse, we spent 40 grand with you on 3 new HVAC units, and we have the board president's having his son's birthday party, and everybody's upset. The AC is not working, and it's 100 degrees, and we spent all this money with you." And I remember I didn't have enough employees, and I had to leave that special moment in my life and had to drive all the way up to Fort Lee, New Jersey, which is like 2 hours away. And I cried the whole way up there, and I said to myself, I'm going to build something special. So I never miss anything with my kids again, and I don't have to go through this pain. I get emotional thinking about it because it was really hard, but I fixed it. I came back. I missed that special time, but since then, I was able to really shift my identity to I need to get out of the truck and I need to build a team, and I was able to build 50 trucks, so I didn't have to miss anything special. And it wasn't easy, but the why and the pain had to be so strong that I wouldn't go back.
And I see so much inside that related to my own journey, my client's journey, getting to that company where they're out of the truck. And that's a metaphor for a lot of businesses because they're not home services like you are, but maybe you get out of the spreadsheets or get out of the sales activities or marketing. When you were able to start really building a team, I would imagine you started to build a core leadership team around you, whether you, I don't know how they call it in your world, but when did you actually decide to build that core set of leadership so that you didn't have to carry the load of
Yeah,
being the only leader?
yes. So the other thing was, I think the next summer I actually had a heart issue because I was doing everything, and I remember I was on the beach with my kids now, and now I don't have to go to the jobs, but I'm stressed out of my mind. I'm trying to do 1,000 things, and I ended up going to the hospital, and it was from stress, and I developed like AFib, which is like when your heart's beating out of rhythm, and I remember I had to sit out of work for like a month just to like calm down my mind. I didn't realize what I was doing, doubling the business every year. I was like exerting every ounce of my soul to continue to growth. And I had to trust some key people. And it like really pushed me to work with my CFO, my lawyers, and really get everything dialed in and start scaling that leadership team. And, I wanted the best people in the business in whatever sales, general manager, sales manager, so they can own it, and the best marketing team. So I had all these really amazing people that they were really good. I paid them very well and they were able to own it. And I could like focus on vision, focus on opportunities and higher level things than the actual day-to-day business.
I have a theory, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you were so proud of the being the craftsman and doing the work, and I just saw your face light up with that. But then your new identity was to build people.
Mm,
If you're really honest with yourself, which one's more rewarding?
building people. That light go off on them where like they were coming in at a certain role and it's my job to up level them. And I feel like God puts people in your life because he'll bring them to you. And now it's your opportunity to bring them better to him, right? And that's been with my marriage, with my kids, with my
Yeah.
friends, like even with you, Gene. Like I hope you feel that when you talk to me, like I'm here to serve, I'm here to help people. And yeah, some of the best feelings I've ever experienced in my business was growing the company with other people, not by myself, right? And seeing them evolve and seeing them buy nicer houses and take their families on, nicer vacations and really understanding everybody's why inside the organization. So we can talk about it. Hey, how's that motorcycle coming? Or hey, how's that
Yeah.
mobile that you want to buy or that investment property? I remember I had a plumber, he had 4 investment properties working for me. I could barely get one working for somebody else, but I said to myself, I want to build a spot where people don't have to try to open their business. They can come here, they can park, they can grow, they can evolve. And personal development. Yeah, I was doing personal development, but I was also paying for all my leaders and my high level people to evolve as well through, coaching organizations. So they had something to be accountable to.
Someone had said this the other day, and if you're the most valuable company or person in your company's not that valuable. Would you agree to this concept?
Yeah, no, especially when you're going to go through a due diligence process and go into market, they want to see the company can scale without you. And, I was in Italy for like a month last summer going through the process, and they saw that, they saw that I was away and the company was continuing to grow without me. But that was from all the hard work with the SOPs, the KPIs, leadership meetings we did every Monday at 7:30. And I remember like between year 2 and 3, I had to move it to Monday because I had it on Tuesdays because I was stressed out about all the weekend noise and Monday. And my mentor was like, Ray, just go right onto it. Monday morning, get down, roll your sleeves up, work with your team, and by Wednesday, double check. Friday, make sure it's all implemented. So every week was really became an implementation company. It wasn't like it was a home service company, but we were implementing processes and accountability and work charts and just super focused on where we were going. And when we did exit, the key people that were there, like I made sure they got taken care of. I made sure that they won too. It wasn't just about me winning. It was about my team too.
Beautiful story behind all this. I want to ask you one final question, at least start here as we wrap up today.
Yeah.
Your leadership principles. I know that you're a reader, you've got mentors in your life and coaches, and you've learned a lot. But when you think about your own leadership principles that have allowed you to exit your company at this high value and then build the next one, how would you define those leadership principles, Ray?
I mean, I was in the military too, so I was very fortunate and I love discipline and like my wife would always reiterate it, but do what you say you're going to do, right? And when you lead from that point, when you say you're going to be there and you're there and you tell them you're going to do something and you do it, now they know the standard. So you set the standard as the head, right? And you can only grow as far as your leadership team. You can only evolve as far as the people around you. So whenever I would go to a training or I would do something to develop myself, I would then bring it back to my team. And everybody in the team now had access to that because I want to grow, but I need them to grow too because I can't do everything. So another good thing would be meet people where they're at, and be willing to be understanding and get down to their level. And it's actually the same thing with my kids. Like I have 3 kids, I have twins and a little girl, and I have to meet them where they're at too, and my wife too. And my parents and my brothers and like everybody in my life, I want to meet them where they're at, and because no matter how much I grow or evolve or how much money I have in my pocket or whatever I do, I'm still a human being, right? And we're all humans, and no one wants to be feel like they're less than or hey, look at me, no, I'm equal. I've been in your role. Every role inside my company, I did. I did dispatching, I did CSR, I did sales, I did ordering material, I did the
Yeah.
marketing calls. So who am I to feel like I'm better than?
Ray, we're wrapping up today, and I don't know why I would love for you to highlight this. And I'm not asking for the big commercial and 30 minutes of you explaining this, but now what's next for you? When you think about all that you've created and all that you've learned, I know that you're not done yet. You're still young. You don't have the gray in your beard like I do. But give us an idea of what's next for you, building on all of this success momentum that you've created over the last few years.
Yeah, no, I mean, being able to exit at 35, I just turned 36. So right now I get to pick and choose what I want to do in my life and who I want to work with and grow with and scale with. So I'm in the best opportunity in my life, and I'm so grateful. And my goal is to help other people, be able to achieve what I have and beyond, because when I look at my mentors and people that are ahead of me, I just want to be a better student. Because even Gene, when I speak to you, things that you've made mistakes, I'm here to learn, and you can learn from me. I can learn from anyone. So, being a master student and then being a teacher, that's my evolution right now.
I agree with you. And I'll even take it a little bit further, Ray. It is almost selfish of me to do what I do because I work in the transformational side of leadership and I'm helping these CEOs go through the journey that you're going through. And as they do it, I have to reflect that in the way I show up at
Yeah.
home, at work, with my friends and family and whatnot. And I really take that seriously. And it is such a beautiful journey to be on. So when my clients have problems with patience, guess what I'm working on? my own patience, or they have problem with, making a tough decision. Well, I look at the tough decisions in my life, and I'm able to do that better because I'm on this journey with them. I know that they look at me as a leader of leaders, and they, maybe even look at you as a leader, but I'm still a student.
Yeah.
I'm still learning, and I'm still growing, and I don't plan to stop. Ray, thanks for being here, sharing your wisdom. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Wow, what a great conversation we had. I love having someone like Ray on, who's been there before, blue collar guy, really understanding what it takes to lead a company, investing in himself, investing in his people. That's the reason why he was successful and built the company of his dreams. And that's the reason why I know he'll be successful in the next venture, because it's just inevitable. He shows up in a way that most people don't. If you were inspired by this, and there's any way we can help you at Core Elevation and Grow Think Tank and GeneHammett.com, make sure you reach out to us. Happy to help you. We do coaching, leadership development, and all those things in service of helping you grow and scale your company to exit, or maybe just a company that grows without you. All that being said, when you think of growth and you think of leadership, think of Grow Think Tank, and lead with courage. We'll see you next time.